Hello, fellow business minds, and welcome to another episode of the Business Minds podcast. I'm your host, Christopher Shaw, and today we are talking to a great guest, Mr. James Wyndham, and we're going to be focused on the connection between spirituality and entrepreneurship. Stay tuned. Hey, James, how you doing?
I am doing real well. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Of course, of course. Now, I approached you with wanting to be a guest on this podcast, I asked you whatever you wanted to speak about because I understand, man, you have just so much wisdom, and I looked up to you in so many different areas. And when you told me you had been involved in nonprofits and everything, I was like, yes, I got to get him on here, man. Then we had our meeting, and it was just a connection. So, as you know, our podcast is all about entrepreneurship and giving people not only the technical ways of growing a business, but it's mental, spiritual, different ways because they all come together. And what you had in mind for a topic was excellent. So let our viewers know exactly who you are and how you serve.
My name is, as you know, James Wyndham, and I grew up here in Dallas, Texas.
Okay.
I actually graduated from Roosevelt High School
Okay.
and went to North Texas State University. I actually enlisted in the Marine Corps, spent 2 years in the Marine Corps, worked for Exxon for 30 years, and also started and ran 2 nonprofits dealing with reentry from both a local perspective as well as state objective as well.
And when you say reentry, what exactly is that?
We're talking about people who are coming out of incarceration.
Okay.
Nationally, we have an issue with incarceration. 95% of most people who are incarcerated will be coming home at some point. Unfortunately, our paradigm is that most of those individuals are people that we don't want to return to our neighborhoods, but that's not always true. But inevitably, they are coming home. So the best way to deal with recidivism, which is that individual going back to prison, is to provide resources and training so that when they do come home, they're an asset, not a liability.
Yeah, give them some support.
Correct.
And not just throw them out there and expect them to figure it out on their own.
Correct.
Oh man, that's powerful. You know, whenever I think about nonprofits, I think about that heart to serve. And there's just so many different things that are wrong, that we can serve and help in certain areas. Why choose that, James?
I think for me,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see recidivism and incarceration as a romantic venture.
Mm-hmm.
No one wants to talk about individuals who go into jail and returning. And so therefore it makes it very difficult for that individual, as you already indicated, to come home and be successful. And so to me, the best route to go to make sure that that individual had some connection to the community, some connection to the resources necessary to be successful is to create a nonprofit geared toward providing that. And so I didn't necessarily provide the hands-on, getting a job, getting education, but what I did was harness the power of the resources in the community, people who are already doing the work.
Okay.
And so therefore, with that connection between our organization and that individual or that organization that does the work, that's how we use that resource to bring people together to harness the power of the community to provide the sources necessary for that individual to become successful. And we did that pre-release as well as post-release.
Okay, so you were helping them before they even got out.
Absolutely. That's
So
the best way to do that.
I was about to say, so they hit the ground running.
Correct.
Instead of getting out and then finding, oh yeah, that was
Yeah, of
really
course,
smart.
just like any other thing, we can use the principles that we're talking about when it comes to nonprofits as well as for profit.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you can. Yes. And that's interesting you say that when some people come to the business minds and they're like, hey, I got a nonprofit idea. And I was like, well, you have to realize you're going to have to find a way to make money too.
Absolutely.
Because you're going to have to, I know you have the heart to serve, but you're going to have to be able to make some type of income to keep it going. And it surprises me sometimes how many people are floored by that. But it also sounds like with you, I love how you leverage partnerships. You didn't try to do everything through your organization when there's people already doing it. That is very smart.
I will say that the things that I was able to accomplish came as a trial and error.
Yes,
Yeah,
of course.
most people, they jump into nonprofits or even for profit thinking that they have the greatest product or the
Yeah, they
greatest
do.
service without realizing that there's some people out there already doing it. And so in order for anyone to be successful, we talk about planning. Well, planning does not necessarily just start with submitting a business plan
Yeah.
and looking at your product, what you're going to provide, what you're going to serve, but also an internal
Mm.
planning stage. Who are you? What do you stand for? What is the value system that you have? And so when you begin to assess who you are as an individual spiritually, you begin to see that there are weaknesses and strengths that you have that can be a downfall if you're not careful, if you're not aware of those.
Oh man, you hit the nail on the head. We at the Business Minds, we help with the SWOT, the strengths, the weaknesses, outside threats, and inside threats. And and sometimes when we go through that, they're like, I don't really have any inside threats. All my things are outside. I say, none. You have some type of weaknesses. You have some type of mindsets that are maybe holding you back, and you don't even realize it.
One of the things that came to me years ago was a quotation that I believe was a revelation that was provided. And the
Mm-hmm.
quotation is this: man's greatest strength is his spiritual awareness. His greatest weakness is his spiritual ignorance.
Mm.
And so we can be talking about religion thinking that that's encompassing God and
Mm-hmm.
all of the virtues associated with it. But religion is something that you just do habitually. So I can
Oh
go to
man.
church every day and not yet be aware of my spiritual nature. And that is the reason why we want to bring to bear to this particular audience, because we want them to succeed. For
Mm-hmm.
instance, we know that 50% of all businesses start and within the last 5 years fail.
They out.
And
Yeah.
the same thing applies to a marriage.
Yes.
50% of marriages within the first 5 years fail. And the reason is why.
Mm-hmm.
We have to go and entertain that question. Why? Because we need to look at not only the failures, but which ones do succeed and why.
Mm-hmm. Man, and in a lot of the times, and once again, in my experience, I found out that people don't want to face the input they had in that problem.
Right.
It's always somebody else, and the people who are successful do put most of the stuff on themselves. Like, okay, what did I do right? Because in the grand scheme of things, that's really what you control.
Yes.
It's not you. I mean, it's hard to control your circumstances 100% of the time.
As the scripture says, guard your heart, from out of it comes all the issues of
Mm-hmm.
life. And so if we look at that from not just a religious connotation,
Mm-hmm.
but a life connotation, that means every part of my life is directly proportional to the effort and energy I put into knowing myself. Shakespeare said, to thine own self be true. It is impossible for me to be true to myself if I don't know myself. I can be the greatest singer, the greatest writer, but if I have a penchant for believing that I'm never going to be anything other than just this person who works at McDonald's,
Mm-hmm.
then guess what? My writing skills, my singing skills, my aptitude for being a great counselor or mentor for someone is going to go to the grave with me.
Mm-hmm.
Part of what we're trying to do, not only in this environment, but any environment where we want people to succeed, is to get them to recognize that they have ultimate power to determine whether they're going to succeed or fail.
I believe that. I believe that where you are is a combination of choices. The choices, wherever choices you made, and that can actually be a light that turns on for you and be like, oh, you know what? I've had a lot of more power in where I am and where I got to than I realized. Or people could look at it the other way and be down on themselves. Like, oh, my choices, even that is up to you, how you look at it.
I'm sure your audience, as well as the both of us sitting here at this table can look back at some of the choices that we made over the course of our lives. And most of those choices were came out because of the information that we had at the time.
At the time,
So
yes.
the more information we have, the more robust, the more accurate and truth-based information we have, the more likely we're going to make better decisions.
Well, James, hey, you are right. I like how you said the more likely. Even before I wanted to be an entrepreneur or thinking about it, I did have a philosophy. I don't know where it came from, that there's certain stages in your life, right? So when you're young, you're like having fun, and then when you get in middle age, you're like working and you're trying to find. Well, let me put that back. When you're young, you're trying to find yourself, and then when you kind of found who you are, you're working, you're trying to make a living, you're trying to make it in the world. Then when you get older, I thought that everybody wanted to give back. Like they have this philosophy that, hey, it's time for me to give back or help the younger generation come up. Because I was thinking they made a lot of choices, seeing a lot of stuff, and now they just naturally want to help. And man, God showed me not everybody's thinking like that, Chris.
It's unfortunate, but our environment that we currently live in, when I say currently, I mean within the last 1,000 years or so, we are inundated with information that says it's all about me.
Oh, yes.
And because it's all about me, then it dovetails into the type of career I want, not based on my gifting, not based on any idea of a calling per se, is how much money can I make doing this? And if it's how much money can I make doing this, then that means also what kinds of trinkets I can purchase to illustrate how wonderful and how blessed I am. And it's unfortunate because most of the times we don't necessarily understand what it means to give back, because we think that when we give, we are less than.
Yes.
We have less than. And so someone telling us that when you give, it shall be given unto you, pressed down, shaken together, we don't fully understand that because we have never heard that and we've never seen it. And so it is incumbent upon people like you and I who not only talk the talk, but who walk the walk. Because people need to see.
Man, yeah, I put it, they need to see victory. They need to be able to see, because a lot of people, and like I said, entrepreneurs, they have these big grandiose dreams, right? And then they hit some nails in the road. They get some heartbreak. They get popped in the mouth by life. Sometimes they give up, right? And that's why I try to tell them, hey, you need to focus on, like, establish a why of why you're doing this. And a lot of them come back to, when we're establishing that why, they come back to exactly what you said. Well, I want to buy this. I want to do this. I want to do that. But that's not your why. Because when the hard times come and the money to buy those things seems like it's fleeting, you have to have something even stronger than those things to lean back on. And that is your why, especially, and I love how you said with the calling, then that why is like, I want to do this because this, no matter what, this is what I need to do.
I want to read something.
Yeah, of course.
Because whenever I talk to people, as much as I know that I probably have a litany of things that I can say, I always want to add statistics to what it is that I'm talking about.
Okay, some hardcore facts.
We all know Sam Walton started Walmart. But why?
Okay.
And one of the things that I read about him was how that he was wanting to sell for less, sell more of what he wanted to sell. But what was important to him was to help people save money and live better. That was his purpose. That's what drove him. Now, imagine, if you will, this guy who has a purpose and a focus on making sure that people could buy more and live better. That also translates to his employees. He's not going to treat his employees less than he's going to treat his customers. Therefore, people are willing and wanting to
Work, yeah.
for him long term, not just short term, but long term. So therefore, his whole organization is geared toward not only serving the community, but also serving his employees. Those are the spiritual principles that we're talking about.
Yes. And that's him building a culture. And a culture is long term versus just a quick win.
Absolutely.
And also having to people to believe in a culture, you have to live that culture.
Absolutely.
You cannot just say one thing and then do the other thing and then think people don't see your actions. It's like we see you. Like, I know you're saying do this, but we're looking at you. And that speaks so much louder because culture is very important. That's a good point.
Right now, one of the stores that many of us love to go to is Whole Foods. Whole Foods use spiritual principles determined to make sure that their customer and their employees are well fed, well nourished. They actually work with farms to produce healthy food that they now sell through their stores. But their premise is to make sure that people coming into the store can buy whole foods that are healthy, worthwhile to nourish their bodies, to keep them healthy, but also to make sure that the employees have discounts so that they can purchase those foods as well. So their whole premise, the whole purpose for that store is to ensure how that they incorporate these spiritual principles with their employees as well as their customers.
Man, those guidelines keep you on path with your why. That and we're talking about this, but everybody we're talking about too is making money too. So, and that's one of the things that a lot of entrepreneurs escape. They're so
and search here is this. You have to start looking at yourself first and incorporate your value system.
Yes, you got to start with you.
Because when you are providing a business, when you built a business on a product and you're selling your product, at some point you may even go public. And now you're having to contend with investors who are saying, well, I want more return on my investment.
Yeah.
Well, if your value systems are marketable, that means that today you're going to provide a loaf of bread to your customer for 25 cents. But because your investors are now saying, well, I want more investment, a return on my investment, tomorrow you may jump that price to $1.25. Why? Because you're chasing the dollar now. You're not letting your principles guide and direct your business acumen. That is going to challenge how successful your business will be. Because if you're always catering to the investor, it's just like when you have a nonprofit. You can't just assume that everybody's going to love you. You've got to figure out a way to use your value system to enhance the likelihood that an investor will look at what you're producing. How many people have you touched? How many lives have you changed? And determine how much money they're willing to give you. But all of that is based on the internal value system that you have already looked at, your weaknesses, your strengths, to determine how you will function in a market. How will you function in an environment?
And you hit some powerful points, and I wanted to just emphasize in the one that where you have to stay who you are. You don't want to lose yourself. Why? You don't want to gain the whole world and lose your soul, in the pursuit of just things. And I will say, in these days and times, with social media, quick access to everything, you can get if you spend too much time looking at other people.
Yes.
You will not have that time to spend on determining who you are, what your value system is, and your why. So it's going to be brittle. And when those hard times come, you're going to be it's going to crack. But you're right on the investor. A lot of people, they get that pressure, especially if somebody's, funding you.
When you're a nonprofit, you're always looking for a dollar.
Yes.
One of the things that I had to overcome in my training, in my learning, so to speak, is this idea that as a nonprofit, you're looking for everything free. You're looking for someone to give you a service or whatever it is. You're looking for something that has no cost to you. But it came to my mind at some point through this process that everybody has to pay for something.
Yes.
And so even though you may be getting a service or a product or something that you don't have to pay for, someone did.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to shift your thinking to, okay, if there's a scripture where it says, every man is worthy of his hire. So in essence, at some point, every prophet or nonprofit has to realize I've got to be able to pay for something.
Mm-hmm.
I've got to figure out a way to pay for a service, even if it includes marketing myself as an executive director of an organization, simply because I now have some clout in what it is that I do. So now I can now harness that and change that into a marketable skill that I can now have people pay me to show up with the information and wisdom that I now have.
James, you hit another point, man. My boy James, you bring a lot out of me. That's why I always like talking to you. One of the things that I guess it's not a new concept, but I started introducing it to when people say they want to start a nonprofit. I say, what about a social business? And a social business is exactly what you said. Do you remember Tom's Shoes, where you buy a pair of shoes and then he sends one, right? And so
Same thing for stocks.
Oh, yes, they do have the socks. And so I was like, have you ever thought about that? Using one of your skills that, that you like to do, just like you said, presenting yourself, but letting everybody know that, hey, whenever you buy these shoes, our company is 100% supporting the fight of people not having shoes. Like that's the whole point of our business. So now we're a for-profit, but you understand the heart of what we're trying to do. And then, I mean, you're knocking out two birds with one stone, because they came to you to buy the shoes, but they also realize, hey, I'm also helping somebody who can't buy shoes. So that social business concept, I don't know if he knew what that was or how that was coined, but I tell people that too, especially if they come and like don't have a plan for financials. I said, why don't you sell something, and while you're selling that, just let all your customers know, hey, when you buy this product, it's 100% or 50%, whatever percent you decide is going to fight this one problem.
Yeah.
And
I was going to say that one of the dangers associated with nonprofits is believing that there's always going to be a funder out there
yes,
that will give you money. First thing you got to realize is that there's 10,000.
yeah,
I mean,
James,
a lot more
yes,
than that, nonprofits out there
yes,
seeking funding. And some of the, as I mentioned earlier, anything dealing with people coming out of incarceration is not the most romantic and attractive nonprofit to fund. And secondarily, even if they fund you, they're only going to give you a few dollars to deal with the clientele that you have to deal with. That's not necessarily operating expenses. One of the first things that nonprofits learn is that the funds that are not connected to the service is important.
yes.
You can't keep your lights on, can't have the doors open if you don't have those types of funds. And so you have to be ingenious in figuring out ways to bring money in that covers those expenses. And another thing that I recognize too, funders, they're always looking at how many people you served. If you don't adhere to the value system that you have, people who are served by you, who see you move away from the focus and the principles that you say you live by, no longer will come to you. And so in essence, you start losing the clout that you had with funders because you are no longer serving the people because they refuse to come through your door. It is imperative that you always maintain who you are, not only for the people that you serve, but for the possible funders that may come through the door. There's an organization, it's Gold Star. Gold Star list nonprofits and their value within the community.
Oh man.
If you're a part of Gold Star, funders look at that and they say, oh, Capital Area Reentry Coalition is a part of Gold Star. That means that they are doing great work within the community. So the likelihood is I'm going to fund them before I fund this person that I don't know, or this organization I've never heard of.
Oh man, I never heard of that, but that's a really good concept to kind of do they kind of well, I guess if you're on Gold Star, it's kind of holding you accountable
It's holding you accountable to
what
things they have value systems that they adhere to, and your value system must be in alignment with theirs.
Oh man, that's powerful. Because and like you said earlier, there's so many nonprofits. So somebody who is looking to, let's say they have the old money. They just got a lot of money just sitting there and they don't live that lifestyle. And they're like, you know what, I could be helping. Right? I could be helping. And there are, especially here in Dallas, there's a lot of people like that. But I do think that over the years, nonprofits have had a bad rap to where I don't know who to trust.
Especially in light of Enron.
Oh yes, I watched The Smartest Guys in the Room, that movie. Yeah.
Prior to that time, nonprofits were not as scrutinized as they have become since then, and that's because most nonprofits, if they're not careful, spend the bulk of their money on operations.
Yes.
Not necessarily touching the lives of individuals. And so that had to change. And so based on Enron, funders are looking at, well, how many dollars are you spending touching bodies, lives, as opposed to just keeping the light?
You're exactly right, man. It got a bad rap. But if you stay true to who you are, you can fight through that storm.
Right.
And even I think too, it's because nonprofits have to have a board. So they have to have a board, and I like that because the board you choose should help you to stay accountable.
I learned that about the hard way. Board members are not necessarily as conducive to helping the organization survive if they're not chosen well.
Yes.
If they're not vetted. My first board was based on people that I knew within the reentry community as well as the nonprofit community. Challenge with that is that if you choose people to be a part of your board who are also nonprofits, their interest is in how they survive, not necessarily you.
Yeah.
The board member is fiscally responsible for the longevity of that organization. That includes whether or not, if you don't know it or not, their own organization. And so I had to come to grips with that and choose people who were willing to spend dollars on my organization, not necessarily someone else's organization. And that is a part of the vetting process. That's the application that you submit for people to sign on. Why do you want to be a part of this? And are you willing to put in X number of dollars per year to make sure that this organization stays afloat? Those are the things that you learn through trial and error sometimes.
Yeah, you got to. Nonprofits have to have an SOP, systems of operations, to where it's smooth transitioning and it sets clear expectations for people. I love how you put in there that the people on the board should financially contribute. A lot of nonprofits don't do that because they feel like, okay, well, this person is already spending time in here, so I'm not going to always ask for money. But you have to realize, we were just talking about this earlier, me and Maria, about how people are spending money on things they want anyway. They're already spending money. So if they're spending stuff on they want, and they say, hey, I want to help this organization or I want to help this, well then hold up. You can put some money because this is what you want. If you say that this is where you want, there's nothing wrong with setting expectations for the people on your board to spend time and money. I love that.
You're serious about the longevity of your organization. You should be serious about making sure that people who come aboard are also as serious about it surviving as well. That's one of the things that I think that, yeah, when the word I like is alive.
Okay, I like that too.
When I learn, for instance, when I read Genesis,
Uh-huh.
and we are made in God's image and likeness. One of the, these are just my thoughts.
Uh-huh. Of
One
course.
of the things that I believe is when we're made in His image, God is a spirit.
Mm-hmm.
He's not physical, and as such, I am spirit. The essence of who I am is based on the energy and the things that I thrive off of it, emanate. But the likeness is His character.
Mm-hmm.
So when I say I'm born and made in the likeness of God, when I talk about how God is loving, kind, compassionate, those are the attributes that I have.
Yes.
And so, in essence, if I'm going to do something intentionally, I have to be aligned within myself of those characters as well as the understanding of who I am immensely,
Mm-hmm.
innately. That means also when I bring people into an organization, I think sometimes stores and companies, they hire people erroneously. They look at a person and says, "Oh, they have the skill to
Experience. Yeah.
and the experience to do this, that, and the
Mm-hmm.
other," but they're out of alignment
Mm-hmm.
with the vision and the purpose of the organization, and inevitably they're going to create disharmony,
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to end up having to retrain, at some point even fire this individual that you spent uh, dollars training and trying to get that person on board. If you would have used your principles, your understanding of who you are and what your organization is about to determine whether or not they're going to be a part of this, if they're not in alignment, why would you hire them?
Mm. James, man, you are hitting on a lot deeper spot in entrepreneurship, in business owner. And people overlook this, especially now in this quick, fast, and hurry time. They will sacrifice their principles for that quick 100,000, whatever it is. And they don't even realize the money that they're seeing is not even everybody can do that either. And you would sacrifice your principles just for a chance.
There was a person that I hired
Mm-hmm.
that had all of the attributes we thought was necessary for that person to be a great counselor for our organization, for the individuals coming in and out of our office. Unfortunately, we found out later that they were not. They were not aligned with what it is that we knew was necessary for our organization to thrive, as well as making sure that individuals who came through our office thrive.
Mm-hmm.
She became a liability.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually we ended up having to dismiss her, but we dropped the ball. We didn't ask her questions that were more prone to illustrate or identify where she was spiritually.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about going to church, not about whether or not she reads the Bible 24 hours a day.
I 100% agree.
It's
Yes.
about the nature of who you know yourself to be.
Mm-hmm. I trust me. I know some people will, like you said earlier, and not to stay on too long, but that religious part. I check these boxes, and so I am. No, that doesn't mean you are a Christian. That doesn't mean you know God.
Go ahead. I want to going back to a lot of things that we said. There are a lot of people out there, entrepreneurs and nonprofits. If you're on the cusp of creating something,
Mm-hmm.
everybody talks about planning, and it is important. But the first thing that I would suggest is plan to evaluate yourself spiritually, to know who you really are, so that when you are stating that you have a purpose and a reason for your business, is in total alignment with who you know yourself to be. If it's all about, I want to show I got this great product that's good for some people, but it's not good for you because you don't know who you are. I think sometimes we can get so connected to this idea of the success thing that we can have paradigms that we don't even recognize that we have. We have blind spots. One of the greatest stories when it comes to talking about how a business made a great comeback is Harley-Davidson.
Okay.
Harley-Davidson was the cast me out when it came to motorcycles in our country and in the world for that matter.
Yeah.
But they didn't see the efficacy of a company out of China, Japan, creating a motorcycle that was small, lightweight, because theirs were always the big.
Yeah.
And they believed that everybody in the world would always continue to want what they had. And so they almost went bankrupt when Yamaha and
Suzuki, yeah.
all these motorcycles
Sports bikes,
showing
yeah.
up because they dismissed what they saw. And eventually they had to come clean because what they began to do is we want to continue to serve the public. We believe our product is great, but we missed it, but we can't go back and try to market it based on what was yesterday. And so they turned their company into a premier motorcycle. And today they still are able to sell that product, but now they're selling it as something that is well above everybody else, like a Rolls Royce of motorcycles.
I was about to say that they are some of the most expensive motorcycles.
Absolutely. And people are buying them.
Yes, you're right. You're right. It's because they went back to the values. That was a great example of that comeback, of losing yourself and then finding yourself again, and even in an ever-changing market. Man, James, this has been good. We're almost out of time. Me and you have to come back for part 2. But before you go, give something that you want to leave with people who want to start a nonprofit that need to have that introspect of who they are, like something from your experience.
The way I look at life is this. We all came into this world with something to give. We have been blinded by stuff that we grew up with, things that we've heard. But first, sit down. Now, Jesus every day went and sat down and got quiet. And the reason he did so is because distractions keep us from reaching our purpose. Get to yourself, be quiet. I'm not talking about reading the Bible because God is in each of us. And since he's in each of us, he's always trying to talk to us. We just don't hear. Get quiet, find out what it is that you've always been talking about, dreaming of doing. If we throw all of those images, all of those pictures that we have in our heart on the wall, it'll paint a picture of who we really are. Find out who that is. And as a result of that, you'll find that you'll have such a huge desire to touch people in a certain way that you never even considered. It's not about being an engineer. It's not about being anything other than who you really are. Find that thing. That's what I talk about all the time to people. It is not about whether or not I want to be an engineer. It's not about whether or not I want to be a teacher. It's about being who you really are and letting that particular vocation determine how many people you touch.
All right, man. Thank you, man. That's some words of wisdom, man. That's appreciated. And you're the embodiment of what I was talking about earlier. When we get older, we should be wanting to give back. And so I appreciate you being here and wanting to give back. We never know who we're touching. Let's just go out and do it. And a lot of this has been great. James, we're gonna have to have you back, man. And to everybody out there, James, you want to give some contact information if somebody wants to contact you, or just
my email,
whatever,
is James Wyndom. Their last name is WINDOM, the number 51 @gmail.com.
Okay, cool. And in the Business Minds, we're going to start implementing some thought leaders. And some thought leaders are just people that people of the community can go through and just ask questions. And some of this may be paid now, so don't think everything's going to be free, y'all. But I would like to talk to you about being a thought leader, especially for the nonprofit arms, because we do get a lot of members who are nonprofits. And I would like to connect with you. So we'll talk about that, and we want to bring you back on here. And if you haven't already, everybody go and create a free account at thebusinessminds.com, and you get a free 90-day business roadmap that is totally free, and some other mindset tools. So thank you for joining us on thebusinessminds.com. And until next episode, stay blessed.